Hello, everyone. It's Benjamin Sanchez. I'm an attorney in Houston, and I want to talk to you a little today about notices to vacate and whether or not the tenant needs to cooperate in receiving a notice to vacate prior to an eviction lawsuit being filed. This week, we've been going over evictions and, in particular, notices to vacate. Today, I want to talk to you for a few minutes about whether or not a tenant needs to cooperate in receiving a notice to vacate. And what do I mean by that? Well, there are two questions I get from tenants all the time in relations to evictions and notices to vacate. One, primarily from apartment tenants, is this: my office manager or my property manager or the office has called me down to come to the office. And this is a situation where we know that the tenant is in default primarily because of some sort of non-payment of rent. But usually, this is a situation where the tenant is pretty sure that what's going to happen is some sort of notice to vacate is going to be given to the tenant. And so I'm asked, do I, as a tenant, need to go to the office whenever the office says, please come down to the office? We need to give you something, or sometimes they don't even say that. And my answer is this: you do not have to do that. The Texas Property Code allows for delivery, as I discussed earlier this week, yesterday, allows for delivery of the notice to vacate in various ways. None of those ways require the tenant to do anything. So the tenant is not required to go to the office to receive a notice to vacate. So that is one type of cooperation that I'm talking about. The other type of cooperation that I'm talking about is that the tenant does not need to sign the notice to vacate or to sign for receipt of the notice to vacate. So sometimes, whether it's an apartment or a home, you may have someone who's trying to deliver the notice to vacate who basically is trying to get the tenant to sign off on a copy of the notice to vacate or sign some form that says that the notice to vacate has been received. And you do not need to do that as a tenant. The Texas Property Code is designed to try to create as minimum interaction and disruption between the landlord and the tenant when it comes to an eviction, especially when it comes to delivery of the notice to vacate. As I talked about yesterday, there is an alternative if the landlord is unable to get into the home, or the landlord thinks there might be some harm that would come to people if a notice to vacate is delivered in person. So it's important for you as the tenant to know that you do not need to go down to any office to receive a notice to vacate, and you do not need to sign for the notice to vacate. The caveat to the rule that I'm talking about in terms of cooperation is this: you cannot purposely try to increase the tensions of the situation. You cannot um, do anything that would cause an escalation of the matter. That also goes for the landlord. The landlord can't go and disturb the peace in performing the delivery of the notice to vacate. So, on both sides, the landlord and the tenant need to understand that the notice to vacate is required prior to an eviction lawsuit being filed, and it is something that the law tries to do as peacefully as possible. It tries to create situations where the delivery of the notice to vacate can be done as peacefully as possible. However, peacefully doesn't mean cooperation. So, as I told you before, because tenants have very few rights in evictions and have very few options or defenses. A notice to vacate, especially how one is delivered, is one of those defenses if it is done incorrectly. So, what I tell my tenants, my tenant clients, is that why would you cooperate in delivery of the notice to vacate if that is one of the areas in which the landlord can get it wrong? Because obviously, if you go down to the office and you sign for it, it's done. Delivery is done, and you personally got the notice to vacate. It would be hard to argue that you didn't get it or it was done improperly. Okay, so there's no reason to make it easy for the landlord. You don't need to make it difficult in terms of escalating the matter, but you don't need to make it easy because the landlord can get tripped up if the landlord doesn't do it correctly. Okay, I hope this helps. Again, this is Benjamin Sanchez. If you've liked the video or you've liked my series so far, just give me a like. I ask that you share it because there are lots of people in Texas that really need this information because we're going to be facing a lot of evictions. I've already seen multiple news articles and stories regarding the deluge of evictions that have already started and will continue to go throughout this summer. So it's important that we get this information out there so that tenants know their rights. If you have any questions, you know how to find me. Give me a DM or you can call my firm. But I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.